We're now live on YouTube.
Thank you, Leah. Well, welcome everyone, and officers and non-ONS committee members. Happy New Year. As we know, we've had some dreadful news as things have been moving at a pace in terms of COVID, and obviously all of our best wishes go out to everybody at this point in time, and for everybody to stay safe, of course. Right, so item number one, declaration of interests, and I'll just remind everyone we are live streaming, so again, if you wish to speak, please put your hand up. We'll do the same thing, we're taking votes, and please keep your microphones muted so we avoid background noise during the meeting. And could we do a roll call, James? And when we do the roll call, could everybody also declare at the same time if you have any interest on the agenda? That'd be helpful. Fire away, please, James.
Certainly, Chairman. Councillor Adams.
Here, and no declarations of interest, if that's still appropriate.
Councillor Brennan.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Bullman.
Here, no declarations.
Councillor Catchpole.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Holland.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Karimi Gubanlu.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Kelly.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor King. I'm not sure Councillor King is here. Councillor Murrell.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Prutton.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Riley.
Present, no declarations.
And Councillor Shaw. Councillor Shaw.
I've seen you there. You are present.
I'll have to ask Councillor Shaw shortly. And the other members present, Councillor Copplestone.
Present, James. My business is in receipt of the local restrictions support grant. Thank you.
Councillor Leggett.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Wymark.
Present, no declarations of interest. Thank you.
I believe I saw Councillor Emsall arrive.
Present, no declaration.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. And
Chairman.
It's Councillor Hempsall here too. So yes,
oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Present with no declarations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lana.
That's all right.
Chairman, it's Emma. Just to Nigel, Councillor Shaw he's not in his video, so I have turned his video off. So I'll keep an eye on his return and his declaration of interest.
Right, okay. Yes, I did see him there earlier on, without Christmas jumper on. Yes, we'll move on. So apologies, James.
Yes, Chairman, we have apologies from Councillor Nurden and Councillor Harpley.
Thank you. And we'll move on to page 5, item number 3, which are the minutes of December the 1st. First of all, in terms of accuracy, I won't go through each page. I'll just ask, are there any matters? If there are, could you please raise your hands? Ken?
Yes, could I request the officers, you've started to use abbreviations on here, like Spark and SEAC and the rest of it. Could you put the actual titles of those? Because if you've got the general public reading, they don't know what they represent. So if we could have that for future agenda minutes, please.
Thank you, Ken. Which officer is going to respond?
I can respond on that, Chairman. What we'll do. Ordinarily they do, but we'll make sure that the first time it's referenced in a report, and then we'll abbreviate it afterwards. I will have a chat with Sue about whether there's some common, because with some agendas it is worthwhile putting some common acronyms as a standing agenda item. So we may do that as well if you leave that with me, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
And, right, anyone else? Gone. Matters arising, anyone? No. Right, we'll move on then. I'm not seeing any hands up here. Officers, I don't know if you can. We'll move on to, excuse me, budget questions, page 12. And I just, oh, sorry, there is an announcement actually from me. There may be a cabinet meeting on the 16th. That's a special one being brought, which possibly may happen in terms of the Food Innovation Hub. If that does occur, then we would need to have a ONS meeting, additional one on the 9th of Feb, so we can scrutinise that properly and have the appropriate notice in as well. So it's not clear yet whether that will take place on the 6th, as far as I know, 16th. But if it does, then we'll be having a meeting on the 9th, so we can consider that additional paper for the cabinet on the 16th. So if you just make a note of that, that'd be great. And also, James, public speaking.
There's no public speaking, Jim.
Okay, right, page 12. So we move on to the budget questions, and usually we'd be doing this in October. We started it. This actually, the process started in November, so we got really compressed in terms of time, particularly over a situation with virtual as well, can make things awkward. By the time we had our workshop, got the questions sorted out, went back to ONS to get those endorsed. Questions then went off to cabinet members and officers for return on written answers. Then we really could have done with having another get together in terms of sorting out who would be raising the questions for cabinet members to respond, which is what we've usually done. However, with this meeting being on the 5th and with Christmas, it's turned out to be pretty much impossible to try to get that together just for that purpose. So therefore, the only way really to proceed today for this year anyway, is that we've got the written questions here, as you can see, starting on page 12, the questions and the written answers. So we could take those as they are, as they're read. And then what I'll do is I'll just go through each question, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and ask the committee if they've got any supplementary questions from the written answer that you can see on the pages. And really, that is the only way to proceed this year. And next year, we'll hopefully be in a better place. Won't be so compressed around COVID. And we can start the process off in October as we used to do, which gives everybody enough time to get fully staged on the process of this. So I'll proceed. Page 12, and we've got question 1 on the medium-term financial strategy. And you can see there in blue the response from the portfolio holder cabinet. Is there any supplementary questions to this, apart from your one, Ken, around SPARK, obviously, but too late to correct that in there. But yes, are there any supplementary questions on this? No? Sue Holland?
Yeah, I just had one question on this one, really. The 8.6 million of savings in the joint working, I may have missed this, so if I have, I do apologise, but how close are we to achieving those savings? Do we know? Have we got a schedule somewhere of how far we are down that process and whether this is an additional or not?
is Trudy present?
I am.
Trudy, could you just clarify, perhaps?
They're not additional savings. A tracker is regularly sent out to all members to update on how far we are. So the aim was 8.6 million. It's not a definite target. We've never targeted to, that was not the point of the collaboration. We thought 8.6 million savings would be a result of the collaboration. We're well on the way to actually overachieving that. But it's not meant to be at a single point in time. It was over the next few years. So we're not there yet, but we're well on the way to overachieve it.
Yeah,
I think we're on something like 9.3 was the last one I saw.
And I think, Trudy, that was over a period of 5 years, I think. From the
That's correct.
study.
And there's peaks and troughs. You know, some years will be better than others. And obviously with what's happened with COVID, it's altered the original agenda for the savings anyway, because different costs have come into play now with regards to the council. But we're on target to overachieve 8.6, but no, that's not an additional amount. That was the original from the first feasibility study.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
okay, Sue. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, so move on to, and thank you, Trudy. I'll move on to question 2. Government has announced pay freeze for public sector staff. How will this affect the Cabinet's plans for settling the 2021-22 budgets? What are the Cabinet's assumptions regarding future staff costs? And you can see the answers there. Any supplementary? I can see you, Councillor Adams, far away.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm a little bit puzzled on one thing about having a sort of well, we're on pay freeze, aren't we? Local pay arrangements. How can we have a local pay arrangement when in fact we're working with one team? And if you're going to have a local scheme, surely that would have to apply to South Norfolk staff as well, as they are all part of one team. So Trudy, I just wonder whether you could clarify this. Thanks.
They are all part of one team, so it will apply to officers across the board. Same as the performance-related pay scheme that is now being looked at. You can't differentiate. The one team is the one team.
Thank you for that, Trudy.
That's okay.
Okay, anyone else on 2? No. Okay, moving on to 3. How the Cabinet evaluate the risks around investing in Broadland growth, and does Broadland growth pay the council for services it receives from BDC? You can see the response there. Any supplementary? Gone. Question 4. Next year there are due to be elections. Will COVID make carrying out these more difficult? And will there be a need to provide additional resources in this area? Again, you can see the response there. Any supplementary? No. Moving on to question 5. Money is being set aside to deliver, number and members and officer training. How will Cabinet ensure that this is delivered effectively and is ongoing? Again, you can see the response there. Any supplementary on this? Again, there's this term in there, spark. I'm not sure members are aware of what that means, but again, it's in there again. And of course, also, we've moved on since the last full council meeting. The last paragraph on page 13, the H&R and OD team report back on on progress with the O&D strategy and training to CMLT. I think there was also references to lead member group as well, which of course is no longer there. But again, on the feedback on this, how do members, supplementary question to me, I've felt in the past, and other members as well, I felt a little bit behind the information board on this in terms of knowing sort of how that's going. So for instance, on the members IT training and any rollout of further IT for members, how have you calculated or been able to calculate a budget for that training yet? And if that requires more training, with the budget that you've already thought about, do you think that would be sufficient to cover it? So I guess, True, would that be back to you again? No.
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, no, that's fine. I can do. With regards to the IT training, we have, I think if you remember at the last, I think it was the last cabinet, where we agreed a couple of items, recommendation 1 and 2 covered expenses that came out of COVID, and there were various new officers' time that was required within that came from the COVID expenses from central government. So that was covered in items 1 and 2 on that paper. So extra resource was agreed at that time. If you remember, although this will come up, I think, in a question further down on here, we deferred item 3 and 4 on that paper, yeah. Cabinet did, yeah, for it to come back. But actually, since then, as you will see in a subsequent question, another almost 600,000 has come from central government for COVID, because we deferred like the council chamber, we wanted a business case for that and so on. But actually now that money has come forward, that will probably negate items 3 and 4 from the last cabinet paper anyway. So any extra resource we need that can be seen as COVID related can all come from that funding.
Right.
So I know the Emma and her team are putting forward a thorough training plan, because we've noticed, especially with the IT, that has been a big problem. So that is definitely coming forward, that you will get the timetable for. And just to sort of encapsulate question 6 as well at the same time, when we had the all-member briefing a while ago, if people will note, maybe, I don't know if it's only the people that were in my team, although Debbie did feedback afterwards, I did request an all-member briefing specifically on IT, so that we all get a proper catch-up on where we are with it, because a lot of this has been agreed so long ago, but I think it gets forgotten. Yeah. So I think if we have an all-member briefing on IT, that will cover the cost of IT and also the training at the same time. So hopefully that answers your questions. But yes, we've got the extra COVID money now as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Trudy. And so that extra 600k, again, you know, supplementing back on that is helpful in terms of the minute on this as well, I think, because it just fleshes that out a bit more. So thanks, Trudy. Anyone else on 5?
Chairman, can I just come in just to add to
yes.
Trudy? So in terms of the all-member briefing, at the moment we're looking for that to be week commencing the 25th of January. I'm just trying to get all the people in the room at the right time, but please look out for a Zoom invite on that one, and that will be a joint all-member briefing to give all councillors across both councils an update, as Trudy says, on exactly what's been agreed, what we're progressing and where we're heading with that, and the resource that Trudy referred to in terms of the training. We're looking to allocate that work out, and then again, hopefully at the all-member briefing, we'll be able to give you the timetable on that training.
Thank you, Emma. That's very useful. Thank you. Anyone else on item 5 or on question 5? No, and you're right, Trude. It does naturally lead on to 6, and you're right. You've already picked up supplementary there. I had for that as well. You've already covered it really. Anyone else on question 6? Yep. Okay. Question 7. Again, we've got the 350 provision for COVID response. Is this sufficient? We've got the written answer there. Any supplementary on that? Given what's just happened and moving on, you know, as rapidly as it has, clearly I don't think any of us expected when this question came out for us to go into, you know, a complete lockdown, which has now occurred, and now all the consequences that will flow from that. And it's been so fast moving. So again, sort of supplementary for me on this. I doubt very much whether you've been able to, Emma, officers, Trudy, been able to get sort of all ducks in a row around this at the moment. But I would have thought that, you know, on the funding stakes, clearly more needs to happen and get focused around this. Now we're in complete lockdown again.
I can just give you a quick mention if I mean,
Thanks,
obviously not since last night. I can't tell you a lot other than hearing Rishi this morning announcing more grants and more discretionary grants as well. So I don't know, obviously we don't know how much we'll be getting yet, but our teams now, unfortunately or fortunately, are well versed in getting this money out the door. So I have no doubt they will do the same again. So combination of the economic development and the finance team working together, they're doing enormous work and getting money out. Probably the quickest, and councils in Norfolk actually getting money out the door. So I'm sure we'll do that. And as I said in the last question, that the mention there of the extra almost 600,000 that we got. So we've got that now as well, and I'm sure more will come forward now. We've been put down and put in lockdown, but haven't heard anything as yet, unless obviously Debbie has, but I certainly haven't.
No, we haven't. Sorry, Chair, just to say, no, we haven't heard anything else since last night in terms of funding, but obviously as soon as we do, we will update members.
And the team strength that we had from it developed over the previous lockdown, that's still all in place. I'm guessing in terms of funding and, you know, resource.
Chairman, just to provide some assurance on that, we are back in lockdown, but we're month 10 with a lot of knowledge and experience behind us as a team. We are in a really strong position to be able to carry on responding to the crisis we find ourselves in. We've already met this morning to start getting all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, and we already have a plan of action of how to respond to this. Fortunately, staff were able to have a bit of a break over Christmas, so some of the staff have been able to rest and recuperate, which puts us on a good front foot. And we're now looking at how we can actually facilitate working with other public sectors, NHS, CCGs, etc., to enable the rollout of the vaccine and to try and get closer to the light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, we are absolutely working on this as we speak.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody is watching live stream, but I think, you know, it's appropriate as well that this further clarity today of all days is probably there today if anybody is live streaming. And I've just picked up Sue Catchpole. Sue.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I'm obviously concerned that with the extent of the restrictions of people's income and so on over the last 10 months, we might find that we have even more residents who are in even more need over the next couple of months. Can we just have clarity circulated to members and to the public about which helpline they should ring for which service and what might be able to be provided for them? I know there is a county council helpline. I know there is a Broadland district helpline for Broadland residents, but even I'm not quite sure which line they should ring for which service. So I just wondered if we could have some clarity on that very quickly, then we could disseminate that to our residents who may now be very fearful of their where their income's going to come from and what that might mean for them. Thank you.
Chairman, you have Mike Pursehouse on the call, who I think it might be worthwhile just asking to give a quick update on this one.
Thank you, Emma. Yes, Mike, far away, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Cashpile, I'm more than happy to send something out today. So we've got the systems in place already. We've set up. We've already stood up the help hub across Broadland Council. We've gone back into where we were in March and April in terms of cluster leads. So we're just working through that. So what we'll be able to do is, one, provide the number out to you and all members about where they need to go for support, but also for members where your cluster and who your cluster leads are, to ensure that you've got direct contact with someone who you need or you can go to ask for support. So that system will be in place, and we'll get that information out to you by tomorrow.
Thanks, and I think what Sue's referring to as well, and I know I've had this as well, if we've got on, say, one bit of A4, if you like, all those bits of information, points of information, that's actually really helpful, because it is a kind of, we can go on the website, you can go here, you can go there, you can ring this number. When you've got it all on one, disseminate that back out via us, via emails, whatever, is very efficient, and it's very clear to people. So that'd be great, Mike.
Yeah, we'll have a summary, Chairman, on one sheet for you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. Right, so I'll move up.
Councillor Mark.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to make people aware that actually on the front page of the Broadland District Council website, there is information and a link to a page all about coronavirus and support. So it is there, and obviously I know it's being updated. Obviously things have changed dramatically, but just so people are aware, there's an awful lot of information there. On, as I say, one on the front page, there's the number from county, and there is a link to all of the services that we're providing. So just so people are aware.
Thank you, Fran. Thanks. Excuse me. So move on to question 8. What commercialisation investment opportunities are there, and how are we pursuing these? Again, you can see the response here. Any supplementary? No, gone.
Steve,
No.
I think
Have I missed one?
sorry, I think Jamie wanted to come in on the previous
Oh,
one. Jamie Satterby.
Jamie? Yeah, I couldn't see you there, Jamie.
No, you're fine, Chair. I don't ever take it personally, obviously.
No, I've just I'm still on my iPad, so I'm just had to switch over. I can't see everyone, you see.
No, that's fine.
Far away, Jamie.
And thank you, Martin. It was only to say, Chair, that I think, of course, we'll get the communication sent out as Mike has taken away as an action. I think there's also a role for members in terms of their own local community intelligence links to parish and town councils. I've been having a really productive conversation with one member of cabinet, in fact, this week, to look at how we can better support their parish council around the activity they're doing locally. You guys have a role to play here as well in terms of being the eyes and ears of need, demand and vulnerability out in the community, and really that community intelligence is vital to us. So just wanted to give that call to action, really, Chair.
Brilliant, thanks. And that's really appropriate point you've made there. We are out there. Thanks very much. So again, on question 8, just returning to that. Any supplementary? If not, I'll move to 9. Yeah.
Chairman, Councillor Mancini Boyle's got a comment to make on question 8.
What, you've got a supplementary question, Trudy?
No, I've got a comment. I want to enhance the answer.
Yes, no, I know, Trudy. Bit of light-heartedness this morning. Fire away, please, Trudy.
Yeah, I think just to highlight really the Broadland growth, especially, obviously, again, we agreed in the last cabinet to top up the Broadland growth reserve, and scoping is going on to see what our next project could be. But just really, Peter Sean's not on here actually because he's got the exact figures, but the last project that Broadland growth completed in Plumstead, we got an enormous return actually from that, a combination of things. The interest from the loan to Broadland growth alone resulted in, I think it was £110,000 interest. So let alone what we've got back from obviously selling the houses. So I think the more we can do with Broadland growth, the better. So it's just to enhance that really. And when we get a chance, I'm sure Sean, he did update our group actually on our last group meeting on the sort of return we got from it. And I'm sure it was hot off the press then anyway, just before Christmas. So I'm sure he will update all members on actually how it breaks down. So from obviously additional council tax, as I said, to the profit on building the houses, and the fact that we've even provided more housing. So I think that once you see those sort of figures, you see what we can achieve, and that's exactly why we've put more money in the reserves for those type of projects.
Thank you, Trudy. And just before you come in, Fran, I have got memory like an elephant, but I remember sitting, not this virtually, but sitting in the council chamber 8 years ago at the first ONS I attended in terms of questions, and this issue came up then about investing, and the issue came up then about investing in housing, etc. So this goes back a long way, and I remember from my point of view, trying to champion that at that point in time. So, and I remember positive answers coming forward, and I do remember positive from yourself, Trudy, on it. But it's taken some time for us to come together, you know. And I do remember that really clearly with yourself as well. So it's great that this is, because this is a way forward actually, and for councils and with the funding situation nationally, and we are providing housing, etc. So, Fran, far away.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I just checked through my notes. I did write down some figures from Sean, and basically what he was saying was it was a 30% return that we got for our money, which is fantastic, really. And the bottom line, which would include the taxes we will pay on this, is a £1.3 million return to the public purse, which is enormous, really.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of money coming back to us, one as a council, but two, you know, in general, to the public purse, obviously to spend and support people as we desperately need it now. But there you go.
Absolutely.
Thought it'd be helpful.
Absolutely. And it's measured risk as well. I mean, this is the other key thing about this, isn't it? It's very measured risk, you know. Okie doke, thanks for that. And for your supplementary answers there, Trudy, much appreciated, and Fran. So moving on to question 9. COVID will have a longer term effect on the economy. You've got A, B, C, D. You've got the response there. Any supplementary? And I'm keeping an eye on the time here. I'm just reminding everyone. Any supplementary question on this? No. Okie dokie. Right. Move forward to 10. Are Cabinet exploring opportunities to increase income streams? If so, what income streams are we exploring? For instance, car parking charges to cover maintenance costs, investment in electronic charging points. And if so, how are Cabinet going to ensure charges do not have a negative impact on communities or economic development, and ensure the original service provision, e.g. for car parking, is paramount? You can see the response there. Any supplementary on this? I know it's actually can be quite a hot potato, this one, as we move forward. I can see Joe nodding away there. And I know that there's some work in progress around this for sure, particularly with the market towns, Joe, isn't there? So if there's no supplementary on this,
Councillor
Caroline.
Cooney-Givenley.
Got you, Caroline.
Thanks, Steve. There's no mention about investment in electronic charging points, which I presume is quite a hot issue going forward.
Right. Joe?
Thanks, Caroline. This was
the parking strategy for Broadland was looked at Economic Success Panel about 18 months ago, with the ambition of starting the strategy work at the beginning of last year. Obviously, the COVID situation has happened and that work has not taken place yet, but that is something that is in the work stream to look at. Broadland is a member of the Norfolk Parking Partnership and we pay into that, but going forward we need to look at a more resilient strategy for our towns, and I think that will probably now be integrated in the town work that we are doing, particularly in Reetham and Aylsham. So it's sort of a coterminous effort to look at them holistically. But as I say, that work hasn't started yet. The electric charging points are all part of that work. So we're just waiting to see what happens with that. Also, there are emerging technologies coming forward like hydrogen. So at the moment, we're not in a position to sort of leap into the electric charging points, but obviously with the changes in legislation to do with vehicles, that is something that we will be looking at in the medium term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then you've got Councillor Mancini-Boyland, Councillor Judy Legg wish to speak.
Yes, Trudy and then Judy.
Yeah, I might be stealing a bit of Judy's thunder here because I have to put my hand up first. But I think it's worth reflecting back again to previous cabinet where we agreed another environmental officer to specifically deal with our green strategy. And again, charging points will be something that will come into that. So once the officer is in place and concentrating on all the different projects we could look at, that will be part of it at the same time. So we've already made the step forward to do it by appointing an officer. So we just need to have that officer up and running to get on with it, really. And I imagine, as I said, I've probably stole a bit of Judy's thunder there.
Judy, have you had your thunder stolen or part of it? Hello?
Sorry about that. Yes, to a certain degree, but I can say we are actually now practically doing the practical planning for about 5 projects on the green issues. So hopefully we will see progress on that soon.
All right, thank you, Judy.
Councillor Pullman has his hand raised.
Peter.
Chairman, I've got to leave shortly, so I just thought to say
thank you.
Apologies for my absence. James has produced an excellent summary of the points from last night's meeting, just simply to say that the document actually lays out clearly what the legal process is to move towards actually sending this document out to the public so they can actually comment on it. It is a legal document as such, and people would be commenting on the legalities of what is being proposed. There are possibilities of objecting to the proposals. You could put something in about particular allocations of housing that you are concerned about, but the real issue would be consulting on whether it's legally and procedurally compliant, sound and in compliance with the duty to cooperate. So those are the elements which you would be actually consulting on. It was recommended to Cabinet for approval with those provisos, and also the proviso that the economic and retail study, which was not part of this report, would be added to it as an addendum so that people could see the report in its entirety. So I'm going to leave it at that, Chairman. I'm sure.
Peter, just before we go, so I'm just clarifying what you're saying is this has arisen from your meeting from last night.
Correct.
That you chair now.
Correct.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you, Peter. It is all clear.
I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder.
No.
And I'm sure
in actual
Lana
fact, Peter,
can admirably add to everything that I've already said.
Yeah. And Peter, I do appreciate it, because really we do need this, because as you know, over the last year, I've been making a point that minutes from panel meetings, whatever you want to call them, we are aware of them, and I've actually dug some out myself, so we're aware of them as well. It helps us on ONS to consider that as well, particularly as they go into cabinet. So it's relevant. So
which is why I didn't want you to wait until the minutes were completed, so that you could have this update, which is a brief summary.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Peter.
Thank you, Chairman.
And you
my
can always
apologies.
you can always ring me at night as well if you want to, by the way.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye bye.
Right, we'll come on to that later. Thanks a lot, Peter. Take care.
Bye.
Hope the cat's all right. Right, I've lost myself now. Where the hell am I? Right, I'm on 11, is it? Yes, 11 now, I believe. Okay. So waste service is currently being retendered, and there are potential changes to the national waste regulations. Do Cabinet expect costs to rise or fall as a result? And if they rise, how will the additional costs be funded? Again, committee consider response here. Are there any supplementaries? Sue Catchpole?
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered whether the final decision on that procurement will be a decision that will come through ONS.
Chair, I can maybe answer that for you, if that's okay. In short, yes, it will, Sue. The decision to award the contract will be a cabinet decision, which we've scheduled in towards the end of the procurement process, and by process, it will come through ONS first, as all cabinet papers do.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
Councillor Adams has his hand raised.
Tony?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Just very briefly, now that we've left the EU completely, do we need to be compliant with the competitive procurement process?
Who wants to actually respond to this one?
I can respond to it if you want. Sorry, it's
Thank you
Simon
very
here.
much.
Yeah, yes, we do. We are required to follow the OJU still, because the tender went out before we actually left Europe, so we are still required to follow all those procedures.
Chairman, can I just add to that as well, that in terms of procurement, a lot of the EU regs were actually based on what was in the UK legislation to start off with. So we were actually kind of leading the way on this. So we will continue to lead the way on this, and that legislation is still valid.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with a number of industries. Playground industry is the same. The EN regs on those, and so a lot of these regs will still remain as they are. Actually, yes, Tony. So I think that sort of really covers your point there, doesn't it? Your question, using supplementary. Yeah, okay, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Fine, thanks. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't see on the screen with your thumb up. You see, thanks. Right, so move on to question 12. The COVID pandemic has demonstrated the value of local community support. Will Cabinet continue to invest in supporting the community going forward? And if so, how will they fund this? Again, we've got the response here. Any supplementary? We said some clarification earlier on in terms of future funding coming through as well. And also Mike's comments around our role in the community as well. So I'll move on to 13. Government fund for rough sleeping initiatives may come to an end. If this funding ends, will Council continue to fund this service? From the response here, are there any supplementaries? Goes over to page 17 as well, the response.
Councillor Catchpole wishes to speak.
Just a small point, the first paragraph says the rough sleeping funding ends after 2021, and then says the service will be able to continue until up to August 21. So I'm just wondering whether that date's correct.
Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, apologies. That's a slight typing error on my part. So So currently the funding is up until August 21, but we're working closely with central government at the moment. And although we haven't got any definites, it's certainly looking as though our programme will be supported, certainly for this financial year. So it's looking as though that will be, but I can't confirm anything yet. But the positive conversations we've been having, and central government are very pleased with what we've done so far. So,
can I just ask a supplementary to that?
Yes.
So are you saying that you are hopeful that the funding will continue through to the March 2022?
Yeah, so obviously I can't give everything on a formal responded Zoom call, but yeah, certainly yes. I mean, it's looking very positive at the moment.
That's good, thanks.
Okie dokie. There's no one else. Move on to the final question, 14. How has the planning white paper impacts on services, and how has this been reflected in the budgets? You can see the responses there. Any supplementary? No? Right, well, thank you very much. And thank you, Cabinet members that have attended it, and officers that also helped to support in terms of the written responses, plus also supplementary verbal responses as well. Much appreciated. We'll obviously be minuted up accordingly. And yes, thank you, everyone. And we'll move on to the Cabinet agenda now. So if we move on to page 20, Warm Homes Fund additional funding contract. And Mike, you're the lead officer on this, Mike Pershouse.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is quite a simple one, really. We've got an additional 1.24 million to support our Warm Homes Fund. Unfortunately, as with the nature sometimes is funding, it's got to be spent quickly, and it's got to be spent by the 31st of March. What we're looking to do to spend that is for this chunk of money is to go with a couple of frameworks, procurement frameworks, which are quite commonplace with councils. Because of the size of the nature of the procurement framework, we need approval from Cabinet for that money. So we've done the due diligence. We've worked out a procurement framework for these two, and basically what it means is that rather than our officers have to go out and individually procure each application for funding, we can just have a supplier who will be able to sort that out on our behalf. So it just speeds up the process because we've got to get the money spent by 31st of March 2021, sorry, Chairman.
Yeah. Brilliant, okie dokie. Right, I'll open it up. Ken?
Yeah, Mike, wonderful fund. I can understand trepidation about the fact that we've only got about 12 weeks to actually get all this done. Could I have some guidance of if people apply for this and then it, and it sort of gets to use as a system, will this be able to carry on past the date? So is this it has to be completed by March, or does it just have to be registered with use as the direction for the council?
So we have to thank you, Chair. We have to ensure that that it's allocated by 31st of March. So obviously, I mean, it can roll over as long as we have allocated that money by the 31st of March. So in terms of the framework, however, the framework is specifically for this chunk of money. So obviously, what we'd want to do if we got some more, for example, next financial year, then we would look at where whether we carried on with that framework or whether we'd review it. So it's very specifically up until the 31st of March in this chunk of money which we're looking to procure this framework for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else?
Chairman, can I just, because Councillor Shaw wasn't on the screen when we recorded attendance, obviously we can see he's there. Can I just ask Councillor Shaw to confirm if he has any declarations of interest, please?
Thank you, Emma.
No, I don't.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you back again, Councillor Shaw. Thank you. Yes, anyone else? Right, so we've got Sue, Catchpole, and then Caroline. Sue?
Just on the Warm Homes Fund, have we got that many applications already in the pipeline, or do we need to promote this to local residents, in which case could we do that through the town and parish councils?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I mean, obviously, it's additional money, so so we were working onto the levels we were. Now we've got this additional money. We've got to promote this. So absolutely, we invested in some comms and marketing at the beginning of the year. We'll obviously be ramping that up. But anything members can do in our town and parish councils can help promote this, then the better. What we absolutely don't want is to have any money left over in 31st of March.
Again, could perhaps for councillors, you could send out a one sheet sort of on this for us again, then it'd be a little bit easier, I guess, for us to focus in on who to contact, what it could be used for, who can apply, sort of on a one sheet principle, Mike.
Yep, pleasure, Chairman. I'll have that sent out by tomorrow as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Caroline?
That was actually what I was going to ask. Who do residents apply to for this funding?
Yeah, so the framework is purely about the background stuff. So they basically apply directly to the council in the same way that with the other funding. So, but yeah, I'll make sure that's all clear, and we've got our own dedicated website for that. So I'll make sure that's all clear.
Thank you.
We've got, sorry, Chairman, Councillor Shaw's got his hand raised, as well as Councillor Wymark and Councillor Catchpole.
Okey-dokey. Nigel?
Yes, yes, this money for air source heat pumps, can I have some, because my boiler's broken?
Well, rather than and thank goodness we're not on a live YouTube streaming, Councillor Shaw, but obviously we can. You're more than happy. What I can do is I can put that through, and you can go through the criteria as we would in a transparent council. But yeah, I mean, if you would generally like me to, I can get the team to get in touch with you.
The reason I ask is I'm absolutely freezing.
I'll get the team to give you a ring.
Oh, your background there, Nigel, it looks like you're in Siberia, actually. I'm not surprised.
Feels like it.
Yes, and we are live streaming as well, Councillor Shaw. I think there's a relevant point there, even though it's humorous. Right, so Fran, you wanted to come in for Sue, I think.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make people aware that the website link here on the report actually does work and takes you through to further information. So it's there for you to click on and read. Obviously, prior to Mike sending out a paper, I'm sure, but I thought it might be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, Sue?
Just wondered whether it would be possible to promote the Warm Home Fund through food banks. I know the Citizens Advice offices are closed now, but perhaps there are other places that it might be good to get this one-page information sheet to urgently.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Catchpole. We certainly with the Warm Homes Fund anyway, we're certainly connected into food banks, children's services, housing associations, and obviously we'll continue to do that. And certainly, particularly now with the lockdown, it's going to be even more a need. So certainly we'll be making sure that we target the vulnerable residents, which is what we're there to do.
Nigel, Brennan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just looking over the figures in 3.4 and 3.5, in the region of 800k, in the region of 200k, so that's in the region of 1 million. So we then go back to 3.1, where it says we've got 1.24. That would suggest that we've got 0.24, or in other words, about 250,000. What's that going to be used for?
Sorry, and again, that's me rounding up, and that may be inappropriate, and I can clarify that at full cabinet. But it's 1.24 million. So yeah, perhaps I should have rounded it up to give that more of a clarity. But certainly the 1.24 million is that. So between those two areas, and it's given us a bit of flexibility in terms of where we spend that money, but it's certainly all there. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Right, Sue, I'll let you in, and then if there's nobody else, I've got some concerns.
Sorry,
Hello?
Councillor Morrell has his hand raised as well.
Councillor, sorry, I couldn't make that out. Who?
Councillor Morrell.
Oh, hi, right, yes, far away, and then after you, I'm going to allow Sue Catchpole back in. Then I'm going to come in because I've got a question in terms of due diligence, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, we're just about hitting 11, so that'd be good timing. Meryl, you far away, please.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, Nigel stole a little bit of what I was going to ask anyway, but the other question I had was obviously, given the current economic climate and everything, the two framework agreements with Cornerstone East Anglia and the Dodd Group, and now, do we have a current financial position for both of these if we're going to be giving them a lot of the council's money?
Thank you, Councillor Morrell. So obviously, as part of our procurement exercise, then we did due diligence on that. So yeah, so we're comfortable that we've been through a process which will be going on for about 4 to 6 weeks. We've done the due diligence to make sure that those two are financially viable. We do a range of measures, one about financial viability, two, the ability to deliver, but also, you know, are they relatively local as well? So we've gone through all that, and we're quite comfortable that these two suppliers are the best options for us to deliver over the next 3 months.
Thank you.
Okay, I've just seen, I think I saw your hand go up, Emma. Is it on the same point?
It was, Chairman. It was just to in terms of the due diligence, because this is through a framework. What does happen with the frameworks is that they regularly, on behalf of anyone that draws down from the frameworks, carries out due diligence on suppliers on a regular basis, normally a monthly basis, to make sure that those suppliers are still solvent and pass the due diligence required to provide them with such a contract. So that is ongoing in the background throughout the time of the lifetime of that framework.
Yes, thank you. So before I let you in, Sue, because we're funneled now, it's happened. So we've had the question, Emma's come in on it, and I was going to put mine at the end. It makes absolute sense to do this now on the due diligence. So on the due diligence, we've got East Midlands framework, Mike, and then we've also got the East Anglia Eastern procurement framework as well. Being aware of some of these framework agreements, I've seen before where they would have perhaps not just one company, but have 2 or 3 as an option. So one within both of those frameworks, did they have on their complying contractors, so to speak, that met all the compliance criteria, which is finance as well. I know if it doesn't, then it's not in the framework agreement, is it? But did they also have 1 or 2 other companies that also within their compliance record that you could also people could also use?
So, well, obviously, they during the framework process, we looked at a range of companies, obviously on behalf of, or the company doing on our behalf, and we worked with them to ensure that we had that. What we've done is, because of we've chosen just 2, 1 for each area of business, purely because of the speed of trying to get that money out. In a normal way, we would, in a framework, there's no reason why you couldn't choose more than 1, but because we wanted a relationship, particularly because it's the Warm Homes team based at the council, we wanted a relationship with 1 provider to get that done, because then we channel all that support in there. So on this occasion, we've gone for 1 each, but yeah, obviously a range of providers were potentially in that framework.
And I think, just from my own point of view, that's just a question I need to sort of understand in terms of the due diligence around it, because I think the question would be, well, how many within the framework? Was there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, 30, whatever? It's normally only sort of 2 or 3 to get through on this sort of thing. And what led to Broadland in terms of due diligence? I understand you're saying that you're looking at 1 because it may be speedier. again, just a bit of explanation about that, because if you've got two, which we've had before, I'm not sure it's not so speedy in terms of people having a choice and a bit of competition in it as well. So there's that in there. But how did you arrive at the one from each? I mean, what was the process in terms of that around due diligence?
I mean, what might happen, Chairman, is probably getting to the point where it's technical detail, which I may not know all the details of. But what I'm more than happy to do is look at the procurement process we did, and then to share that with you, so we can work out. So I haven't got the exact details of exact numbers that we worked to, but obviously we went through a logical process to get to where we are. So I'm more than happy for you to see that information. You know, that's all out there in the public. Or we would expect that to be in the public domain if requested. So I'm happy to share that with you.
Yeah, thanks. And I just think this is what we're best at, ONS, just to try to keep a track on this and understand how, and that helps the public perception as well, particularly when you're getting around issues of competition and value for money, etc. as well. Thank you, Mike. And then there was Sue Catchpole, which I parked you for a moment there, Sue, didn't I?
No worries, thanks, Chair. Just to ask on the practical front, that a lot of people perhaps would be elderly or vulnerable who may wish to apply for this fund. And during lockdown, obviously, that may not be appropriate for workmen to be in houses. So what in practice might happen for those that would be eligible but may not wish to have people in their homes before the 31st of March?
Well, thank you, Councillor. That's another reason why my hair is falling out, because it's another headache. Obviously, we've got to spend that money by 31st. What we'll do, and I'm fairly sure that that central government are going to say, I mean, we've got it so we can allocate that money before the 31st of March. We haven't got to spend it. So it may well be that we can go back and say, look, as long as this money is allocated, are you happy that then that work's done at a more suitable time? We've obviously got to risk assess each individual case anyway. So there's a balance between that person having a heating system in the middle of winter to then risking COVID, so obviously depending on how vulnerable they are, etc., etc. So each one will have to be risk assessed. But what we'll do is we'll work through that. The team are well versed in this, and then hopefully, you know, the agreement will be that you know, we can then roll that over into the next financial year when the actual work can be done and can be done safely. So there's some thinking about to do that, but we're absolutely on that in terms of the risk that we've got.
Thank you.
Again, as you say, Mark, when this funding was announced, the situation in the last 2 days wasn't there. And, you know, even if you've got a breakdown boiler like poor Nigel, you know, broke down boiler, if you've got to self-isolate, you're at risk category, then you get asked those questions, don't you? So
that's right, Chairman. There's a risk to, obviously, there's a risk to one, our staff, and to the actual resident themselves. And so, you know, there's a risk assessment about the risk to giving them COVID compared to them dying of cold. And the same in you know, DFGs, etc., etc. You know, can we ensure that they're supported? So,
and the question's back to the operatives as well. So I think that the point you're making around, can we get this booked in and then later on the work's done? Nobody expected to be in this extraordinary situation, and hopefully government's helpful with that, Mike, you know.
Yes, and they have been so far, Chairman. I mean, for example, we've got agreement now to roll over all DFG money. So normally we have to have that spent on 31st of March by, and county insist on that. There's now an agreement that can now roll over, so we can book them in. So that's a real win. And in general, you know, central government, we're all in this together. There seems to be a lot of will to kind of make it work, as opposed to just a great process.
Thanks very much. Okie dokies. So we'll move back to the recommendation. Sorry, just one. Right. So we've got. So we have recommendations 1 and 2. One is to award the contract to Cornerstone East Anglia Limited under the terms of the East Anglia Midland Framework for external wall installation, cavity and loft work. 2, to award the contract to Dodds Group under the terms of Eastern procurement process for air source heat pumps. I would like, James, before we move to recommendation, for the clarification that I asked for on the due diligence to be minuted, because on this basis, I would be moving. I've not heard anything to the contrary during the debate, so I'm summarising from the debate here. We'll be moving that we recommend 1 and 2, as long as we do have a minute there in terms of my comments and clarification, James.
Yes, certainly.
In terms of due diligence. Otherwise, I think I might have had to abstain on this.
Well, Mike's going to circulate the frameworks, isn't he? It should cover that for you.
Nope,
So
Mike's not going to do that, James. So the minute needs to be pretty accurate here in terms of what I asked. We have got this on recording so you can check, but he's not going to circulate the frameworks. What Mike's going to do is re-clarify the due diligence and view that Broadland took in terms of why they arrived at one contractor from each for each purpose on the installation and also on the air source pump.
Sorry, that's what I meant actually.
Thank you, James. It's a very important point. So thanks for that, because it helps clarify it, James. Because without that, I think I'd have to have abstained today. But based upon that, then I would move, and we've not had any opposition in terms of the debate here as well, to recommending, and I move 1 and 2 taken together, recommend that ONS supports.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Emma?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what Mike will send you out, because obviously it is commercially sensitive information. So you will see supplier A, B, and C, and the ratings therein. I just wanted to manage members' expectations, because that will obviously is commercially sensitive.
Absolutely, Emma, and I thought it would be, naturally I would approach that as one would an exempt paper, Emma. As you know, I've had comments about that before myself, so I'm very strict around that sort of thing, as you know, Emma. Okay, thanks very much. So Tony seconded that. Councillor Adams, all those in favour, please show.
That looks to be unanimous, Jim.
Thank you. So moving on to excuse me, agenda item number 12. Now it's 11:10. We've got this one item left. Have we? No, sorry, 13 as well. But 11:10, I'm going to recommend that we take a 5-minute comfort break, and then we should be able to finish this all by in not too distant future. Is that okay, everyone?
Yeah, fine.
Brilliant.
Chairman, can I just ask if anybody hasn't received the email from me to let me know? I think I've caught everybody. So if anybody hasn't got that, just...
What I was going to ask when I came back, actually, and you're right, my bad, do this in the break, is that I'm working on my iPad here. So I don't know if anybody else thinks Sue Prutton's in the same position. Perhaps when we come back, could somebody, and Sue Holland, so when we come back, perhaps you just pop it on the screen for us.
share my screen with that. That's fine,
and
Chairman.
Just make some notes, and then wonderful. Thanks a lot, Sue, for your help there. Thank you. So we take 5 minutes, 5-minute comfort break. I've got 11. Sorry. Should we say 20 past? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that looks to be fine, Chairman.
All members to turn their cameras off and mute themselves if they leave the desk, please.
Thank you. Where am I? Lost myself. Hello, I'm back. Right, James, Leah. James, could you just do a roll call check if Leah you'd like to?
Yes, certainly, Chairman.
Are we live streaming Leah again now?
Yes, yeah, we are live streaming.
Thank you.
Councillor Adams.
Here.
In attendance.
Yeah, I am.
Councillor Brennan.
Yes, present.
Councillor Borman is not present. Councillor Catchpole.
Present.
Councillor Holland. Councillor Holland. No. Councillor Karimi Guvanlu.
Present.
Councillor Kelly.
Present.
Councillor Murrell.
Present.
Councillor Prutton.
Present.
Councillor Riley.
Present.
And Councillor Shaw. No Councillor Shaw at the moment.
Sorry, Councillor Shaw is here. He's just muted.
Yeah. Present.
Right.
Just Councillor Holland.
Yeah, so if we can, if you can just keep your eye out, Emma, please, for Councillor Holland, as you did previously with Councillor Shaw, and prompt me as soon as she arrives again. Hello, Phil. Just spotted you there.
Councillor Holland's just turned her camera on, so she's now here.
Yeah, confirm she's here.
Hi, Chairman.
Thank you.
Apologies, everybody.
No problem, no problem. And also, Phil, is Helen Miller's with us as well?
No, we've got Paul Harris.
Paul Harris, okay.
So if what I'll do, Chairman, as and when you're ready, then I'll present this item. But Paul Harris is always far more of an expert on these things than I am. So yeah, he's here to support. Then I think he'll present item 13 again when you're ready.
Now, you know, Phil, you're an expert on everything.
Only in some people's eyes, Councillor Adams.
Chairman,
yeah.
Can I just say it's Lana Hempsel here. I wasn't called earlier for the roll call, but I'm here to support the officers should you need me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. Always appreciate when cabinet members present. Thank you. Yes, and what I do, as we know, I've just been looking at the paper back through from last night's meeting on my phone, actually. But what we'll do, if the officer can lead off on this, amplify, and then when we have the discussion, go through that, and then before we come to the recommendation to take that, at that point, could ask Sue to pop up the paper. I think that would work then in a sort of systematic way and at the appropriate point as well. We can do that now, just it's confusing. So we need the officers to report normally. Then we'll get through questions, etc. And just before the recommendations, if we can pop that up on the screen, just so we can consider that as well, that'd be much appreciated. Okay, so is it you, Phil, or?
Yeah, no, I'll just amplify the report before you, and then happy to take any questions in due course. So, yeah, this is the latest iteration of the draft local plan prepared in collaboration with Norwich City, South Norfolk and Norfolk County Council, hence the Greater Norwich local plan. And what you're being asked to do is, or Cabinet will be asked to do next week, will be to publish this draft local plan for stakeholders and members of the public to comment on it. But they're being asked very specific questions, and those questions are identified in paragraph 2.4 of the report. And again, I'll come on to that in a minute. If we simply go back to basics, then you'll be familiar with the fact that the local plan is something that absolutely shapes our area going forward. In this case, the local plan is until 2038, and it's prepared over a number of years with a substantial evidence base, with a number of consultations through that process. And we're now approaching the final stages of the plan making process. And in the final stages, we are required to go out to stakeholders and the public to ask these questions in paragraph 2.4. And that is ahead of eventually the plan, the draft local plan, being submitted to independent examination, where again people will be able to make their representations to that independent examination before hopefully it can be adopted in due course. So those questions are whether the plan is legally and procedurally compliant, whether it's sound, and you can see a definition of soundness at the bottom of page 24, and whether it's in compliance with the duty to cooperate. And the duty to cooperate is a requirement that we work, that we cooperate with neighbouring authorities, recognising that planning and homes and jobs are often a thing that will spread beyond our own district boundaries. So in the past, previous consultations have asked consultees for the merits of a particular proposal or a particular policy or a particular allocation of housing or jobs or some other form of allocation. Whereas this is much more specifically looking at these specific tests. In terms of key changes since the last iteration of the plan, they're spelled out in Appendix 1 in the report there. But one of the key changes has been an increase in housing numbers. That reflects the ongoing direction of travel that we see from government to want to see an increase in housing delivery. But members should be aware that about 75% of the housing that is proposed in this plan was already allocated in the current plan that we have. So it's effectively being rolled over. So this isn't suddenly a new substantial swathe of housing, because already 75% has been allocated in the current plan. Clearly, at the forefront of our minds at this point in time is COVID and the ramifications of COVID, not least upon the economy, not least upon growth. I can confirm to members that an updated economic study and retail study was commissioned and has informed this latest draft of the local plan. So it does have regard to that. There's some good news in a time when it feels like there's only bad news. There is some good news, and that good news is that this area does seem particularly well placed to bounce back economically after this crisis. The other thing I'd say is that, as I've already mentioned, this plan is until 2038. So what feels like a very significant crisis, because it is a crisis that we're in at the moment, actually very much levels off over that period of time. So yes, there are some changes to the plan to reflect the current crisis, but over that timescale and having regard to the resilience of this area, it didn't need a wholesale change. One thing I will pick up on, if you'll bear with me, Chairman, I'll finish in a second, is that members last night at Place Shaping did want to see the evidence base of that latest economic study. As I've already said, underpinning the whole of this plan is a swathe of evidence, and the economic study is just one of those. for normal circumstances, then we wouldn't share those evidence bases simply because there's so much information, and that information is then interpreted in the plan. But clearly, this is very much at the forefront of members' minds, and so we have very happily said that we will circulate that economic study in due course, probably towards the end of this week, so that members can have sight of that as well. At that point, Chairman, I will finish. Very happy to take any questions, but again, just to remind members, the recommendation is that the Greater Norwich Local Plan under Reg 19 is published, but also delegated authority to the Assistant Director of Planning in consultation with the portfolio holder to make any minor or factual corrections ahead of the publication. Thank you. You're on mute, Chair.
Thank you, Phil, very much again. And Ken, you're the first one in.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning.
Looking through the notes that we had yesterday, and you know, we both attended the place meeting yesterday. One of the things we were on about, and you've mentioned it already, was the economic and retail study, and not wanting to preempt that and there. But having talked with some county councillors and the rest, the worry is a lot about the city centre itself, when we know that Debenhams are closing, we've lost British Home Stores, and you know, there's going to be quite a big impact for a lot of major stores in that. And the possibility that that could all be turned into housing, and the fact that it doesn't need planning committees permission to do it because it becomes under delegated responsibilities. I just not want to preempt, you know, what we're getting out on Friday is how many houses are actually anticipated from the study and will actually be put in the city, and will that kilter the actual allocation numbers for the city centre?
Yeah, it's a good question, Councillor Kelly. And there's two elements to that. The one is, well, how many houses are going in the city centre, and how many, and how are we going to deal with sort of the impact upon retail of recent circumstances. In terms of, I'll deal with the latter first. So in terms of the impact upon retail, what we're seeing is actually the government, through changes in permitted development rights, in other words, what you can do without requiring a planning application to be submitted to the local authority, what we're seeing is a change and a relaxation. So they are recognising that they don't want a whole series of vacant units within city and town centres, but across the country they are wanting greater flexibility, and that does allow greater flexibility for some residential units within some of those retail establishments. So actually the plan, the local plan that we've got in front of us now, can't supersede those government regulations, and so what we're seeing is those regulations coming in to determine effectively what city centres may look like in due course. My own feeling is that what we, no, I was going to speculate as to what that may mean. I don't think that that's going to suddenly mean we're going to lose the whole retail function of the city centre in Norwich, but we may see greater flexibility for alternative uses within those centres. In terms of housing, it doesn't fundamentally change the housing numbers because we don't see such a significant shift in retail units becoming houses. What you do see though, and I'd see this as a positive, is quite an emphasis on places like East Norwich, and East Norwich is the effectively the phrase for the deal ground, and those brownfield sites that have remained empty for a long period of time near Trouse. And actually the plan does propose an increase in delivery in those areas. And it's proposing at the moment, in the life of the plan, 4,000 homes on those sites. Anglia Square is another example. I know we've just had the recent decision from the Secretary of State which turned down that proposal, but within this plan, again, because of its lifespan until 2038, I do not envisage a situation where Anglia Square will not be delivered in some form. The expectation in terms of the numbers of homes being delivered at Anglia Square has come down slightly, but those brownfield sites will remain the focus rather than city centre reuse of retail. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that covers the points you were asking.
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much for that, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, I've got Caroline first, then Tony.
Tony's probably going to say the same as I am on this one. I've just noticed on the place shaping panel notes, one note, it was noted that the proposed development at Taverham would have a local centre for residents' everyday needs. What does that consist? Because I didn't think anything was actually confirmed in writing yet about that.
No, and you will have to forgive me. I mean, it was a question that was raised last night, but it was raised primarily not because of going into the specifics of that proposal, but it was considered more in the round about having regard to the economic situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. Will you be able to get a retail facility within that development, or actually are we seeing a change in retail? So it was picking up on a more generic issue, but focusing the question on the Taverham development, if that makes sense.
But this is actually this is for a retail unit and not for like a community centre. Is that what that means?
So the question, as I said last night, was based upon if there is a proposal for a retail unit within the Taverham development to serve that community, will that be viable in light of the changing economic circumstances?
Okay.
So I'm going to, firstly, because I'm not familiar with every single site, and you'll have to forgive me for that, so I can't answer your specific question about that allocation. I'm very happy if you gave me a few minutes, I could probably look it up, but it is the specific details of will there be a shop within the Taverham allocation? I'm really sorry, but I don't know that level of detail in terms of the plan as it stands at the moment.
Mr. Chairman, can I come in on that quickly?
I've just, actual fact, Paul, I've just scanned and I've seen your hand up. So my next point was going to be, before anybody else comes in, was to bring you in, Paul, because I did see your hand go up. So yes, you can. And you might cover the point. I know Phil just said, give him a couple of minutes, he could look it up, but you might actually be able to cover this point, or perhaps another point you want to cover on this. I don't know, Paul.
Well, I think the point I was just going to cover in terms of the actual details of the policy text, just to bring members' attention to it. The report links you back to a series of cabinet papers hosted on the Greater Norwich website. That includes specific policies around the allocation sites for a number of different places within the settlement hierarchy, with Taverham forming part of the urban fringe. And there is a specific policy that covers what is intended there. And the land is allocated for 1,400 homes, associated public open space, a local centre primary school and local medical centre. So a local centre would may be a range of different things, but would expect to be a small cluster of retail and other service type units. And that is my understanding of what is being promoted, and that is what the policy is seeking to achieve in that area. And that was the only clarification I was seeking to give, Chair. But if there is another question I missed that I could pick up on, I'm happy to do so.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil.
I'll let Tony ask the other question.
Okie dokie. Yeah. So on to you now, Tony. I've got a feeling this might flow actually.
Right. There are two questions. I'll ask them both together. One concerning Taverham and one concerning the area I used to represent, Helston South East, Phil. So the first one is relating to Taverham, page 42. So the second sort of bit down, where it talks about Beach Avenue, Taverham, 12 extra homes. Where is it proposed that those 12 extra homes are going to go? And the second question is Helston South East and Gerald's, what was Gerald's sports play field? And I know the parish council and even myself have lobbied, and other residents have lobbied hard for this to be declared either recreational ground or open space. I don't see any mention in this report about those concerns or those wishes being mentioned in this particular report. So if you could deal with both of those questions, I'd be grateful. Thanks.
Yes, could you cover that, Bill?
I'm looking at Paul to know see if he knows any of the specifics in terms of those. If he doesn't, then I'm happy to come back in the next couple of minutes on those.
I mean, in terms of, so the first question was about Beach Avenue, and the second was about the existing, I think it's football field just off. Is it St Faith's Road or Pfeiffer's Lane as it runs through? Is that correct? Yeah, sorry, Pfeiffer's Lane, sorry.
Yeah, Heath Crescent. It's just more than just a football pitches. There's also other facilities up there as well.
So I refer to it only as football pitches because that's what I know it as when I used to play football of a Sunday morning. Sorry. Yes, so in terms of the Beach Avenue site, again, if members want to see the specific sites that are identified, the papers I referred to earlier set out within maps the particular sites, so members can pick those up. The land that's identified for 12 is if you come down Beach Avenue and go past the school and then essentially out of the end of the existing built form of development of Taverum, you get the Y junction at the bottom of Beach Avenue, and it's just land on the right there. I'm not sure I can describe it better. It's sort of before you get to what is Roundwood Bowls. I think it's still Roundwood Bowls in that area. But as I said, members can see the map specifically there, and that's the site identified for 12 homes. In terms of the open space site within Helsdon, my understanding is at the moment the Greater Norwich Local Plan does not make a specific designation on that site. So from recollection, Broadland's Development Management Control, DPD, identifies it as green space within Helsdon. The Greater Norwich Local Plan doesn't seek to supersede in its entirety the development management document, and so that designation is retained. But it doesn't make a specific additional designation for either open space and or its reallocation for any other use. So members are aware the owner of that site is promoting it for residential use, and I would anticipate they will make representations to that effect through the Regulation 19 publication process, and that will be something that will be considered at examination.
Okay. I'll let you come in first, Karen, because there's a direct funneling going on here, and then Martin, you could follow on from that, I think.
Thank you, Steve. I think just for clarification, the Beach Avenue development, there has been 90 plus houses already been built there. This plus 12 mentioned on the report, is that included in that 90 plus development, or is that extra to the 90 plus?
Yeah.
It's additional.
Additional. So it's going to be on that piece of land, another extra 12 houses being put on that land.
Well, I think it's land adjacent to the existing site. I don't have a map I don't have the map of the existing permission in front of me, so my apologies. But my expectation from what I can see in front of me is it's land adjacent to.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and page 42 and 43 for clarity, I'm reading this as this is additional to what we originally had when you go back, because there's then been the requirement for additional housing fill. And this is what's going on here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that particular site lies on the frontage to the west of the existing permission.
Yeah. So this is all additional as we're going over 42, 43, etc. Yeah. And just while we're on the additional, sorry, Martin, I will park you a moment because there's a little bit of a funnel situation going on. As you come down the page on 42, we've also got the Alsham, a reasonable alternative site for 250 homes off the Norwich Road, including specialist retirement homes, has been added. Are you aware of a developer that's actually coming forward with this, or is this just a provision that you believe Alsham could take, if you like?
That is a developer that has promoted that site. And he's keen to bring that forward, as I understand it, Chairman.
I noticed in the previous GDPR there was issues that was flagged up around the infrastructure issues around sewage, etc., which is a key issue in Aylsham. So I don't know how that fits with this.
Again, Paul may be able to add to it. My understanding is that there is an obligation upon Anglia Water to accommodate in their treatment plants, but also to each individual home, any increasing in growth, both in terms of quantity, but also the quality of the any discharge from those plants.
Well, it hasn't worked so far, Phil.
Yeah.
I know.
It's been I've dealt with Aylsham long enough that I know it's been a long-standing issue.
And it goes all the way back to the gravity-fed systems, going right the way out through Buxton to Bardersfield. Boy, there were some issues there. And right, okie dokie. All right, thanks for that clarity. And Martin, at long last, hope you forgive me for just holding you there, but as you know, ONS, sometimes you need to clear out funding on a point. So thanks, Martin.
No, that's fine. It was really just a question of now on page 33, the numbers there with the change in the white paper and everything else, and that, are those figures likely to change within the plan, or do they remain constant?
No, the feeling is that those figures are, I mean, that is, as far as officers are concerned, then this is effectively the draft plan that officers are content with. Leaders from the Greater Norwich Partnership are also content with these numbers. They do reflect, as I've said already, the government's growing ambition to see higher numbers being delivered. So we are comfortable that these numbers are to remain the same. I mean, look, we've still got to go through a Reg 19 consultation and any responses coming out of that. We've still got to go through an independent examination, as I've already described. So never say never, these numbers could change. But as we're saying, as we're presenting it to you today, then we are content that these numbers are robust and are appropriate.
Thank you. Nigel Shaw.
Thank you. I was just thinking from what you just said there, recently the government's been talking about cutting back on the figures, saying they don't need quite as many houses. So what's coming of that?
I'd be interested if you could point me to see that. What happened, Councillor Shaw, was that in order to increase the housing numbers, they came up with yet another infamous algorithm, which caused much upset amongst many politicians, including people like Theresa May, who said it's not the overall numbers they were objecting to, it was the distribution of those numbers that they felt were too heavily focused upon certain areas, including Mrs. May's own constituency. So it wasn't an objection to the overall increase, it was an objection to the distribution of that increase.
As far as I'm concerned, she can have the homes. I don't mind at all.
Yes. And Phil, I completely concur and remember that one well. And there were a number of MPs on the same bench. Sue Catchpole.
Thank you, Chair. Far be it from me to speak on behalf of Aylsham Town Council. I'm not doing that, but my observation, having attended their meetings over the last year, is that when they were consulted on the original plan, they suggested that the preferred site for the town and what the town residents would expect to happen next, given that they've just had 250 house developments over the last few years at either ends of the town, that the development preferred by the town council would be off the Norwich Road. And that was, I believe, what they fed back. And having seen these proposals, it was a complete shock to be looking at a plan where both the originally suggested 300 house development and the town council's preferred site, or that I believe was their preferred site off Norwich Road, are now both being suggested, which will have a phenomenal impact on Aylsham over the house building process. Both roads, Norwich Road and Borough Road, where the entrances are proposed for the second development, are already very busy. And so my question really is, where on earth did it come from to add another whole development on top of the first one, rather than a proposal in line with the town council suggestion of moving the site from one suggestion to the other off Norwich Road? I'll stop there for a moment.
Yeah, again, I mean, there's always a danger to focus in on one or two particular sites in a broad-ranging discussion like this. But I mean, the overall premise was as the team went through this process of preparing this draft, was a reflection having to reflect that ongoing need to provide further homes for this area. And then the question is, well, how best do you distribute that housing need? That is the constant challenge and the constant question around these, these sites, the allocation of these sites. And within that, there is that, how do we address the overall need? But then what sites are suitable? What sites are deliverable? Can we, is the value there? Is the means to deliver those sites feasible? And they also look at the impacts of those, and that would include the highways impacts. And whilst I recognise you're saying, look, that access is going to be a challenge, those roads are busy already. The test or the challenge around how busy roads are, the bar is set exceptionally high, as I've said to members many times. Yeah, the impact in terms of congestion has to be substantial, has to be really significant. And as I've always said, that's generally been written by someone who probably lives fairly close to the centre of London, where their level of congestion is far greater than ours. So it's very, very, very difficult to refuse something or resist an allocation on the basis that the roads are going to get busier in a place like Aylsham.
So can I come back on that, Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that the concerns are just about the roads.
No.
And the concerns are about all of the services that have already been made extra demands of without increasing over the last few years, while the other 250 house developments have been built and completed. So I would expect some feedback from Aylsham Town Council.
Absolutely. And it's important that that feedback is given. And I'm going to reiterate that there's nothing to stop the feedback coming in through the Regulation 19 response. Yeah. But it is important that the focus does go much more probably on the process rather than the merits of the site. So it may well be that Aylsham Town Council, and I'm not putting words in their mouth, but they may want to focus on, well, this has been introduced late in the day, we haven't had a chance to properly comment on it, focusing primarily on the process rather than the merits. But there is also still the opportunity, in front of the planning inspectorate at the independent examination. This is an ongoing process where the town council or residents or anyone else, will have an opportunity to comment.
This is the what's in front of us today is the consultation, isn't it, on this, and no doubt Aylsham will comment back on this. Yeah. Paul, you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for members' interest, again, if they follow the link to the Cabinet papers, there are a series of what are described as booklets and therefore the various parishes around the district, they do explain previous consultation comments, including from stakeholders, and how decisions have been arrived at around some of the individual sites, and that may just be of interest if members haven't picked that up.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Martin?
Sorry, just one quick question, and it's not regarding particular sites or anything. It was more about when the original one was done, South Norfolk, the village clusters were taking out, and then has that report now been completed? And is it part of the overall GNLP now, or is that still ongoing situation?
No, that is an ongoing situation, which Paul is even more familiar with because he's very much leading on that. But in general terms, yeah, there was that sense of those South Norfolk clusters taken out of this plan, effectively being run in parallel. So that is an ongoing process, albeit that the lead document will be the Greater Norwich Local Plan, the document in front of you, and then hopefully soon after that, the clusters would be adopted in conformity with the Greater Norwich Local Plan, if that makes sense.
Kind of.
Yeah, I can go into more detail, but yeah, but it is kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been following this one. I don't know if Paul wants to say anything.
I mean, I don't have an awful lot to add. Perhaps just to elaborate slightly on what Phil has said. The GNLP sets out the amount of homes expected within the South Norfolk Village Clusters Housing Allocation Plan. I think it's pithily titled as, and that document will come forward in due course, as Phil has referred to.
Okie dokie. Right, is there anyone else before we move to the recommendations? Just keep me on the time here.
Councillor Hempsall.
Lana?
Thank you, Chairman.
Who are we talking about here? Sorry, I'm quite here.
Honestly, I'm invisible today. This is not going well. Anyway, thank you, Chairman. What I wanted to say is I just wanted to sort of summarise something that Phil mentioned early on, in that the economic study, which is yet to be received and will be circulated to members. Clearly, none of the the policy advisory panel last night and overview and scrutiny haven't had sight of those. So what we sort of in a roundabout way agreed was that any comments should be fed through me, so that I can then put them, collate them in some sort of way to Cabinet, if that's okay, because we're just trying to find a work around some really tight timescales that and time pressures that we've been put into, and sort of timeframes of when documents and meetings are taking place. So is there anything else you wanted to add, Phil, to that? But because I know we were going to have a discussion about how best to present any additional member input to Cabinet.
No, that's fine. I'm content with that. Thank you.
Okay, is that acceptable to you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. To be honest with you, I'm just confused at the moment in terms of when you say additional member comments. You mean once this information's
place shaping.
Let me clarify, because otherwise. So what I'm saying is what I'm confused on other members is at the place shaping, there's requests for this other information. That information hasn't been sent out yet, Phil, if I can understand. Yeah. Okay, so that's due to come out before Cabinet. Then I think what you're saying, Lana, is members then somehow make individual comments back. You're saying for those individual comments to go back to you. Is that what you were saying?
Well, it was a suggestion because clearly, we had the place shaping panel last night, which is scheduled to take place before overview and scrutiny, so that you can receive their comments. However, every place shaping was quite conscious of the fact that there's the economic study, which nobody's had sight of yet, and that nobody's been able to comment on yet. But in the scheme of things, when we've got thousands of pages of worth of a document. Yes, it is incredibly important. However, in the scheme of things, was it important enough to delay the meeting, etc., etc.? Probably not. But what I'm saying is that I don't want any member comment or input to not be recognised within the context of what's going to Cabinet. So I'm suggesting that, if there are any additional comments once you have sight of that document, that I'm very happy to receive those either by email or phone, and make sure that they're encapsulated in any report or summary, or in the presenting of the report that I make to Cabinet next week.
Okay, yeah, and I thought that was sort of what you're saying, so it's just need to clarify as well. I mean, from a viewpoint, I would, if I was to do an additional comment, I would send it to Phil and yourself, because you need to work together as a team, And
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, Phil. Really?
well, then I wouldn't be sending them to you lot, would I?
That's all right.
I'd be sending them to the one that does want to be in a team.
Oh, I don't know. I think, I'm struggling. Anyway, to either of us, and it'll then obviously be part of the record and the audit trail that. And actually just part of the principle that, Steve, that I have always wanted to include, the members generally at Broadland District Council in shaping policy in terms of the planning and conservation portfolio. So any input that you give me is going to be incredibly valuable and, form part of what we put forward. So.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, and Sue Catchpole, now I'm going to move on to the paper that was been sent through and the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point. So when we look at the economic study, will that give us a kind of map of where the jobs are going to be created? And in that case, could we, if that is the case, could we have an overlay of where the houses are planned to be built and where the jobs are actually going to be, so that we could make sure that we're being as green as possible going into the future? Because what we don't want is long commutes to work.
Can I just say I haven't seen it yet, not in its final version. So Phil.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So again, the latest, let me go back to basics very quickly. As I said at the outset, there is a plethora of studies and evidence base, whether that's evidence to support the number of homes we need in this area, evidence to support the biodiversity and habitats side of things, whether it's about transport. Yeah, there are a plethora of studies and evidence base to this document. The economic study was one of those. It's been done, some time ago now. But in light of recent events and the impact of COVID upon the economy, a supplementary report was asked for and commissioned, which updated the original document. It doesn't go into the specifics of all the different sites, but what it looks at is what is the impact of COVID? How does the plan need to reflect that? So no, it doesn't go into that sort of level of detail and locational detail that you're potentially asking for. In terms of the plan, then actually the plan that we have at the moment that was previously adopted, the Joint Core Strategy, allocated a number of employment sites, and a number of those haven't been brought forward. So actually, from recollection, and again, Paul can give me a nod or the shake of the head, actually this latest iteration of the plan does roll forward those employment sites, and it doesn't allocate any significant new sites for employment. So that's been long established, well established, and that study reconfirms that that should be sufficient to take us through to 2038, having regard to the impact of COVID.
Right, okie dokie. Right. So, sorry, Sue White. could I ask you just to pop up the paper for us for that Nigel, sorry, Peter has referred to, and then I'll move to the recommendations on page 29. Right. Okay.
Can you all see that?
Yeah. Okay, so the economic retail, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. The economic retail study was finalised and will be circulated to members on Friday following an informal GNLP meeting. Study indicated that, right, okay, yeah.
Chair, I'm very conscious of Councillor Kelly's comments earlier. Just to confirm, GNDP is the Greater Norwich Development Partnership, and that is the group of members who sit on a board that oversees the local plan making process, including leaders and relevant portfolio holders and chair of respective committees. GNLP is the Greater Norwich Local Plan.
Thank you, Phil. Right, so are we okay to move down to next? I'm taking it probably people will read as fast as I do, so is it all right if we move on? Okay, and if we can move to recommendation, because this is where so we've got recommendation go. It's subject to receipt of the economic and retail study, yes, to publish the, right, so that's essentially the same recommendation that we've got on page 29, isn't it? The first one, I believe. Let me just check. Nope, it's a bit different. 2 is delegate authority. Minor or factory. Yeah, so 2's the same. 1's slightly different, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you see what I'm saying, Phil?
I'm just trying to get the both alongside each other so we know the different.
They shouldn't be slight. I only provided this as an aid memoir to Councillor Bullman. They're not meant to be considered for alongside the actual report recommendation.
No, what I'm trying to get here for the committee, as chair, I need to do this, and for proper overview scrutiny process, because it has to go through cabinet. Our recommendation is there a variance here that the panel was trying to make us aware of as a committee that is different to the recommendations that we've got on 29, which of 1 and 2 there? That's what I need to clarify.
No, that's fine. Chair, I'm very happy to say, and James can correct me if he thinks I'm wrong, that if you look at the wording in the report compared to the wording in front of you at the moment, it misses out the word "to agree to publish," so that's no material change. The other difference is that the version in front of you includes the proposed dates for the publication, which states 1st of February to the 15th of March. In the recommendation in the report, it doesn't include those dates. And again, I would say that is not material.
It's immaterial. You're right. It's not material.
So
absolutely.
I would revert. Sorry, I'm not telling you what to do, but
no,
I suppose my recommendation. My recommendation would be.
I'm totally with you, Phil, because when Peter raises, it wasn't clear whether there's some fundamental thing that we should be aware of, which is what I've been sort of banging on about. Vones. We need to be aware of panels as well. And I'm not seeing. I didn't see it on my phone when I looked at it during the 5-minute break. I'm still not seeing it here, but it's important that the members as well I'm drawing to their attention. Is there a difference? If there is, I point it out. If there's not, blah, blah, blah. So to my mind, this really now come off the screen and there's no substantive material difference here.
Yeah.
And we move back to the report and recommendation. There actually isn't anything substantial here, committee, for us to consider in terms of recommendation. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sue. Hello, thank you very much. Brilliant, wonderbar. I'm working. So moving to the recommendation then, we on page 29 rather, we have recommendation 1, recommendation 2. I'll just ask first, are we in agreement to vote on both those together? Does anybody want those taken separately? No? All together? All together now? Yeah, okay, fine, thank you. Singing's no good, so I won't do that.
Chairman,
Right, so
just as a point of order, because of the importance of this, could we have a recorded vote on this, please?
You say recorded vote, you mean
yeah,
in the minute?
Yeah.
You want a recorded vote in the minute?
I want it to be plain to everybody that, you know, a lot of people misinterpret the fact of a hand. So what I would like to have is, you know, to go there and each individual yea or nay on it.
Okay, I'm just going
by
to
roll
ask
call
governance.
to be recorded. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Just going to ask governance if they have any issues here.
No, that's absolutely fine. If members are in agreement with that, then we can certainly do a recorded vote by roll call.
Yeah, we can do.
Is that acceptable, Chairman?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
So is everybody else happy with that? I need to ask everybody, you see, Ken. Yeah, would the majority agree with that? Yes, yes, wonderful. Right, because we don't actually have a governance rule in terms of full council. There is actually a prescribed amount to move to a governance vote. We don't have that under my knowledge of our.
As long as there's a general consensus, Chairman, then and nobody objects, then it's fine.
And it's that principle, Sue, that I'm working on, because we don't actually have prescribed numbers we do with full council. It's a prescribed number of full council you have to have, isn't it, to go to recorded vote. We don't have that here. So we've got a majority consensus here for sure. So we'll have a recorded vote. Now then, so again, I'm just returning to make absolutely sure. You're happy for these to be taken together or in tandem, one after the other, one separately, two separately, or both together? Happy both together?
Both together.
Both together, Chairman.
Okie dokie. Okay, is there a mover for 1 and 2 and a seconder?
I move it,
I'll
Chairman.
second. Yeah.
Okay. So you're moving and you're seconding, Tony, yeah?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Right, we do roll call on the vote. If you could fire away, please, James.
Councillor Adams, are you for or against the proposal?
For.
Councillor Brennan.
For.
Councillor Catchpole.
Against.
Councillor Holland.
For.
Councillor Karimi Gubanlu.
For.
Councillor Kelly.
For.
Councillor Morrell.
For.
Councillor Pratton.
For.
Councillor Riley.
I'll abstain, Chair, because there is this addition that has come in, and I'm not quite sure who's thought that this actually is an addition that's appropriate for Alsham. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to abstain on this one. Unusual for me.
And Councillor Shaw.
For.
Right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for, 1 abstention and 1 against. So that's carried.
Okie dokie, thank you. Right, we'll move on to the agenda item 13, page 63. Paul, are you presenting on this?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, friend, by the way. Bye-bye. Fire away, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, hopefully this is relatively straightforward. As I'm sure members are aware, we are obliged to produce a programme plan that sets out the local plan documents we're going to produce and the timetable we are going to produce them to. That programme plan is called the Local Development Scheme. If you cast your mind back to the middle of the year, you'll have seen an update to the Local Development Scheme that adjusted the timetable in line with the expected progress of the Greater Norwich Local Plan at that point. As you'll have seen from the report that we've just considered, that programme has now been accelerated, and it is necessary for us to bring the Local Development Scheme back in line to ensure it accurately reflects the timetable for the production of the Greater Norwich Local Plan. And the updated Local Development Scheme 2018 to 2022 set out for December 2020 is that update. And you'll see within the table, which is on page 73 of my cabinet papers, I'm not sure, hopefully it's the same pagination as the papers you have in front of you. That timescale is set out there, showing the publication of the Greater Norwich Local Plan during February and March of 2021, submission in July, and then adoption in late predicted September 2022. Clearly, once we have submitted the local plan, we're somewhat in the hands of the Secretary of State and the Planning Inspectorate for the exact timing of the examination. But I think the expectation is that would be within 4 to 6 months. But we'll have to, as I said, we're in their hands, so we'll have to react to that as it comes forward. Given that it's, in my view, relatively straightforward, I wasn't going to go into the report in any more detail. I am happy to take questions, so I'll just move to the recommendation, and the recommendation being that Cabinet recommends to Council that it approves the proposed amendments to the current local development scheme.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions? Clarification? Okie dokie. All right, so I'm just clarifying something, Paul, here. So on the, because this is going to full council, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, okie doke. So we're talking really about the timetable.
Yes.
Yeah, which also includes taking over from the last decision, the amended plan with sites.
Yes, so this timetable relates to the whole of the Greater Norwich Local Plan. So that's both the strategy document and the site allocation documents you'll have seen linked through the website or through the web link provided in the previous report.
Thank you, Paul. Just clarifying again for the committee as well already. Okay,
no problem.
So there's been no debate on this, and given the vote last time round, I'm going to propose that we go straight to recommendation now. That's on page 66. That Cabinet recommends to Council that approves proposed amendments to the current local development scheme, LDS. We're happy to take this in the usual way, show of hands, or recorded vote again. Show of hands. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I need a mover and a seconder on this.
I'll second, Jim.
Anybody moving?
I'll move it.
Okay. Normally we have the mover first and the seconder after, but great. Well covered, chaps.
I thought you had moved it, Chairman.
We are friends.
Well done, chaps. Okie dokie. Okay. So all those in favour now, please show.
Six, 7. I think that's 7. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in favour.
I've got 7. I concur. And those against?
And 1 against.
And 1 abstention.
1 abstention.
Oh, that's abstentions. Sue Holland has got a hand raised. No, Susan Holland, sorry, has got a hand raised.
So 2 abstentions. Then.
2 abstentions. Well spotted there. Right. So I've got just scrolled across. Sorry. Thanks very much. Well done on that. Okay, so I'm just clarifying that vote again. It was 7 and 2, 1 against and 2 abstentions.
That's correct.
7, 8, 9, 10, correct, yeah? I did see this at another meeting where the figure didn't add up at the end. Guess where? Halsham Town Council meeting. Right, okie dokie. All right, I think, are we at the end of the agenda? Sue, I think we are, aren't we? And James?
You are indeed.
Yeah, we are indeed, Chairman.
Well, thank you very much, and officers. Delightful to see you all safe and here, and hopefully we will be again. Okay, take care.